how can Satan's kingdom stand if he's destroying his own kingdom?
He was converted.
Okay, so that's what I said. Then Archbishop Leonard said there's a greater danger to Medjugorje, and that is the danger that it might be true. And if it is true, then we run the risk of bypassing God's grace. Okay. Now, as for objections, do you want to phrase any of the objections, or shall I?
One of the objection is I heard many times that Medjugorje is from the devil. Yeah, it's demonic.
But why? Why do they say that?
I mean, I heard some of priests. The devil can also do it.
Okay, then I would say this. The Archbishop of Brussels, Archbishop Leonard, back in 1990, a long time ago, he was the primate of Belgium. He said there are two dangers to Medjugorje. Okay, the first danger is the danger it is false. If it is false, we are being deceived into praying the Rosary, complete Rosary every day, going to Mass every day, receiving Jesus in a state of grace, reading the Holy Bible, fasting on Wednesdays and Fridays, and going to confession at least once a month. We're being deceived into doing these things. If that is the case, oh, happy deception. I wish the whole world was deceived in this way. Okay. And if it's the devil, how can Satan's kingdom stand if he's destroying his own kingdom?
He was converted.
Okay, so that's what I said. Then Archbishop Leonard said there's a greater danger to Medjugorje, and that is the danger that it might be true. And if it is true, then we run the risk of bypassing God's grace by trying to ignore it. So he said, and he says, of this, I prefer to follow and believe, since it leads me into the practice of my Catholic faith, not into something from the devil. Also, why are there so many conversions here in Medjugorje? Back in England, if I heard someone confess and say, I haven't been to confession in 20 years, 30 years, I would get very excited and say, oh, wonderful, Here, that is normal. I don't care. Here, when they say, I haven't been in 50 years, 60 years, that is normal. I hear that all the time. So many people come back to God, come back to the practice of their faith. Why? Why does it happen here? How come it doesn't happen in London? How come it doesn't happen in Singapore at the same rate as is happening here? Because if this is from the devil, or if this is made up by the Franciscans, we need to find the Franciscan who is responsible, because he's a genius. And we need to export his product all over the world.
Correct.
The other thing, I've heard people say things like, oh, you cannot go to an apparition site before it is approved.
Yes, that's common. Let's just promote the approved apparition.
They say, okay, we can only go once it is approved. Now, let's look back at history. Lourdes, when Lourdes was approved by the bishop, Lourdes happened in 1858, approved in 1862. The bishop, when he approved it, he said, one of the reasons he gave for approval is, he said, the credibility of Saint Bernadette, blah, blah, blah. And then he said, the pilgrims coming here from the very beginning. So people going there before it was approved is one of the signs he sees that makes him think this is legitimate, this is authentic and from God. Okay, so to say you can't, so can you go to Lourdes before it was approved? If people didn't go before Lourdes was approved, Lourdes would not have been approved. Okay.
Correct.
And then the same with Fatima. Fatima happened 1917. It was approved 1930. The Bishop of Leiria, he said, one of the reasons he said is that he found it worthy of belief was multitudes coming en masse from the four corners of the land to Fatima from the very beginning. So this is the reason he gives for approving it. So if people had waited for Fatima to be approved, first of all, your 70 to 100,000 would not have seen the miracle of the sun, would not be witnesses. They would not be part of the reason why Fatima was later approved. So when you say you cannot go to an unapproved place, this is actually nonsense. The church is looking to see, are people going there now? And then when they are going, then they say, the church will say, okay, this is a sign that maybe we should approve it. So it is absolute nonsense to say you cannot go to an unapproved place. You can go to my parish in Leicester. You can go to my parish in Sembawang in Singapore. You don't have to wait for that. There's no apparition there. You don't have to wait for approval. Anyone is free to go. And you are free to come to the parish of St. James in Medjugorje. And of course now, Pope Francis, back in 2017, he authorized public organized pilgrimages. So any bishop, any priest can come here bringing pilgrims with them. They don't need anyone's permission or anything. They don't have to hide it. They don't have to make it a personal visit. They can come openly on pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady of Queen of Peace here in Medjugorje. So it's open.
Is there any more objection about Medjugorje that you've been heard?
I think sometimes people will say they are disobedient to the bishop and all that.
Yes, I heard it all the time.
Okay. Now, what happened here at the beginning was the first bishop who was here when the apparition started, his name is Bishop Pavo, which is Paul Žanić. Okay, that was his name. And Bishop Žanić, he came to Medjugorje early. It started 25th June 1981. And he was here by July, openly telling the pilgrims, telling the villagers, the children are clearly not lying. This is a great blessing, blah, 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 etc. And he was like voicing approval. The Franciscans who are here, they were nervous. They were like, surely, Bishop, you have to stand back. You have to be neutral. Just wait and see, because at that time, the Franciscans were not for this. The parish priest, Father Jozo Zovko, who later, he also saw Our Lady later on. He was actually doubtful at the beginning. And he thought you should maintain a neutral stance as bishop. Later on, the bishop and Father Jozo, the parish priest, were taken by the UDBA, UDBA. This is their version of the Secret Service. Like the local KGB here in Yugoslavia, as it was then. They were taken to Sarajevo and interrogated. And after that, shortly after that, Father Jozo himself was arrested, thrown in prison. He was in prison for a year and a half, beaten up badly, threatened. They tried to kill him. All sorts of things happened. They were very annoyed with Father Jozo because every time they locked him in the cell, it would unlock. Every time they put cufflinks on him, the cufflinks would fall off. And so the prison authorities hated him. And the bishop changed his story. The bishop then said, I knew from the beginning that they were fake and this and that, and they were unreliable. And okay, whatever, he's free to change his mind. But what he's saying then doesn't match what he said earlier. Earlier he said the children are clearly not lying. Later he says, I knew from the beginning. I had my doubts. Well, which one is it? What are we supposed to believe? So because the bishop vacillated like this, and then, you're supposed to establish a commission to investigate. The commission must report to the bishop, but he put himself on the commission. You're not supposed to prejudice the commission by doing that, So in the end, Rome intervened and took away the responsibility from the bishop. So by 1986, they took it away from him and gave it to the Bishops' Conference of Yugoslavia, frankly, although they didn't say why, because of the behavior of the bishop here at the time, Bishop Žanić. So the bishops of Yugoslavia, they met in Zadar on the coast in Croatia in 1991. And, they have three choices, in these kind of judgments. I often compare them to a traffic light. There's red, amber, green. Okay. Red is stopping. Okay, this is fake. That's the end. Amber, it means wait, let's see. And green means approval. Okay. And they chose amber. Okay. Non constat de supernaturalitate. That's the technical. But it means amber, So they're basically like, let's wait and see what more evidence comes in, and things like that. But they also said, in the meantime, Medjugorje needs support for all the pilgrims coming here, and also the visionaries need pastoral care. And then, that was 91. But then here, 91 till 95, there was the war. Yugoslavia fell apart. And then after the war, it broke up into separate countries. So Medjugorje now is in the country of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And nothing happened. The pastoral care of the pilgrims was not organized, apart from what the Franciscans did. And the pastoral care of the visionaries, nothing. They received nothing. So they were just left to their own devices. And then the next major change is 2017, when Pope Francis intervened and authorized public pilgrimages. He was very careful to say, I'm not saying that I am approving of the apparitions in Medjugorje, and I'm not disapproving, I'm just allowing pilgrimages. I'm leaving it open. So that's the situation. So when Bishop Zanic, he resigned around 91 or 92, when the war was coming here. He was succeeded by another bishop, Bishop Ratko Peric. And he was consistently against Medjugorje. And he said many times that he doesn't believe Medjugorje. But you see, by that time, it was too late. The Vatican had already said it's not up to the local bishop to judge anymore. It belongs to the Bishops' Conference. And now that Yugoslavia doesn't exist, it's up to the Bishops' Conference of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Although now, with Pope Francis intervening, I think basically the decision must come from Rome now, I think. So this thing about, and then all this nonsense about disobedience, there's all kinds of things being said about the Franciscans, and they're being slandered. I know them personally. I have never heard a single Franciscan here ever speak against any of the bishops. Nothing. Even though some of them have been really treated very badly, they will not say anything negative. They will not criticize him. Father Yozo, who went to jail, I met him last summer. I met him when I was a teenager many years ago. But last summer I saw him, and I was asking him about these things, and he just said, "I don't want to say anything against the bishop. I don't know." And he said it's a mystery to me. He's talking about the original bishop, why he changed his story. Suddenly he just said, for him it was a great sorrow. You can see that, a great pain. Yeah, so that's that. So this charge of disobedience is one of nonsense. Sometimes people will say silly things like, I say silly things. They say, why didn't the visionaries become priests and nuns?
Yes.
Whenever anyone asks me that, I will say to them, why didn't you become a priest or a nun? I don't understand.
Makes sense.
You think seeing Our Lady, you can only become a priest or nun if you see Our Lady. Well, why didn't you? What's your excuse? Our Lady left them free. She told them, I would like it if you would explore a religious vocation. But she said, you are free to choose. I'm not compelling you. She told them that in the beginning, December 8th, 1981. She said that. She said, you're all free. You must choose. So I think two of them, one of them, one of the boys tried in the seminary. He suffered a lot there. And one of the girls, at least two of the girls maybe, I think, tried religious life. But now all of them are married and all of them have children. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. But, I don't know why they think that every visionary must become a nun and die of tuberculosis before the age of 33, locked up in I have here on my shelf, I have two big fat dictionaries of Marian apparitions. And I went through them, there are thousands of them. I went through and I made a profile of the visionaries. And the typical visionary is more than 50 years old, male, and married. The typical kind of, the group that is most common is that. So.
Wow. I see.
And then
thank you for sharing that, Father.
Sometimes people will say, oh, in Medjugorje, there are all these big hotels and the visionaries drive fast cars and this and that and the other. Now, look, I've been to Lourdes many times. Lourdes has huge hotels, but look, it's been 150 years or more since Lourdes, so
yes.
Of course there are big hotels and all that. Medjugorje, we have what they call hotels, but I'm glad that they are still small. They're like maybe 3 stories, 4 stories, and I hope they don't build anything too ugly or too big or anything. It's a village still. And we have many bed and breakfasts. That sort of thing is more common. Pensione, as they say in Italian. Pensione, rather than hotels, we have pensions. And then they say, oh, there are nice houses in Medjugorje and all that. Okay. I remember when I was a boy, when I was 3 years old, 4 years old, I was taken to India to meet my grandmother and my other relatives and all that. And I remember, the kind of house they lived in. Like some of them, the toilet was outside, and they didn't have a phone in the house. They definitely didn't have a TV. And I remember as a child thinking that it was very uncomfortable. But when I was there more recently, like 2007, it was like the rest of the world. They had all the kind of modern conveniences that the rest of the world has. From 1970 till now, the world has changed. When I was growing up, I wouldn't say we were not rich, but we were not poor, but maybe on the poorer side, so we didn't have too many luxuries. I remember like with dessert, we were allowed dessert only on Sundays. And maybe, you could have these Cadbury's chocolates, but only 2 squares, on a Sunday. That's it. The world has changed. Now children expect all kinds of treats and to be spoiled in all sorts of ways. Their Xbox and, I don't know, PS6 or whatever number it is now. And, and the latest phones and all sorts of nonsense. And maybe the world has changed not for the better in having all these things. But the world has changed. Everyone has a phone. Throughout the whole entire third world, everyone has a phone. The poorest person has a phone. Okay, so here in Medjugorje, are they all rich? No. Do they have phones? Yes. But everything has changed. I remember a few years ago, this American priest came, and he looked around, and he had been here in the 1980s. And he said, oh, it's not as simple as it used to be. I liked it when it was very basic. So we all thought, okay, what can you do? Life has changed, right? And then he went to his room, he complained. He said, where's the air conditioning? So there's no aircon. So, we wanted to laugh. We kept quiet. We didn't say to him what happened
That's
to
funny.
basic lives, basic conditions. But no, I would not say the village or the visionaries are rich or whatever. The world has just changed. They all need to earn a living. So the visionaries, I think almost all the visionaries, they run bed and breakfast. They take pilgrims in, because this is the only way that most of them can survive. Like everyone else in the village, they need some work.
Yes.
So that depends on the pilgrim seasons. From March till November usually is when we have pilgrims coming, although they come all year round. So that's another objection. I don't know, any others you can think of?
None so far, Father, but that's the common. But
I heard one strange objection from an Irish person. They were saying that here in Medjugorje, Our Lady's feet are not visible. Okay. This is true, because the dress she wears is so long, they never report seeing her feet. And someone said, oh, she must be the devil, because when the devil takes on the appearance of someone else, he can't hide his devil's hooves. Okay,
yes.
This is something I heard. So when I heard this, I was thinking, okay, whoever is saying this, you're assuming you have a great deal of knowledge about podiatry in hell. Okay. Now, first of all, the devil does not have any hooves. He's a spirit. He doesn't have a body. This is absolute nonsense. And he can appear as an angel of light if he wants to. He can appear, make himself look good to try and deceive people. Okay, fair. But this nonsense about, he cannot hide his hooves. I don't think I've heard anything as crazy as that idea. But I do sometimes hear that.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. This for clarification to our viewers
No,
right
you're
now.
welcome. My pleasure.
Why isn't it not yet approved by the church?
Yeah, I think probably because of the complications here with the bishop, because the bishop was for it, then he became against it. It just kind of, it muddied the waters, So I think now, so the Vatican just wants to stand back and let things progress. And at the end, they will issue a judgment, I'm sure. For example, there's a place in Italy called Castel Petroso where Our Lady appeared in the 1800s. There were two ladies who saw Our Lady, young ladies, and the bishop went with the pastor and the dean. He went to Castel Petroso, and what happened was he also became a visionary. He saw a lady, okay, and so the bishop saw a lady, so he could no longer deny it. So he approved Castel Petroso as valid and worthy of belief. But then Rome intervened, and then Rome overturned the decision. And the reason for that was Rome said, look, the bishop is supposed to judge, but once you became a visionary yourself, you are no longer a neutral judge. You can't pretend to be neutral. So they overturned the decision. And now, 100 years later, the current bishop is opening it up, and people are still going on pilgrimage there. And, so it's in this limbo state where it might be acknowledged as authentic. But it was muddied because the bishop there himself became a visionary. Okay. Now, Medjugorje, the bishop was for it and then went against it, like flip-flopping 180 degrees, just like that. I think that is the main reason that Rome thought, okay, we have to be cautious, stand back, and just let things play out. That would be my guess. Why?
I see. But I heard also that about the seven secret that the Medjugorje is not yet revealed.
10 secrets.
10 secrets, sorry. 10 secret. Yes.
Yeah. The secrets are things that are to happen in the future, and they are given to the visionaries. Right now, 3 of them have 10 secrets. And those 3 do not see Our Lady every day anymore. They only see her once a year. So Mirjana, Ivanka, and Yakov, they see Our Lady once a year. On different dates. Mirjana, for example, is on her birthday, March 18th. Ivanka sees her on June 25th, on the anniversary of Medjugorje. And Yakov sees her on December 25th, on Christmas Day. The other 3 visionaries still see her every day. So Vitska, Ivan, and Maria. These 3 see her every day, and they have 9 secrets each. Okay, so when you receive the 10th secret, you stop seeing Our Lady every day. Okay.
Wow.
So now, the secrets are about things that are to come, and they're not supposed to talk about it with anyone. They don't even talk about it among themselves. Now, the first 3 secrets are things mostly to wake up the parish here and the world. And many people will believe when the first secret happens. Many people will believe Medjugorje, but also for many other people, it'll be too late. So that's why Our Lady keeps saying, don't wait for the secrets. Don't talk about secrets. Be converted now. Okay. And then the other things, the secrets number 4 to 10, the secret number 3 is a permanent sign. She said she would leave a permanent sign here on the hill where she first appeared. But she often says, do not wait for the sign. Just be converted now. The other secrets are punishments for the world. And as Our Lady always says, punishments don't have to happen. If people are converted, if they change their lives, it won't happen. But if the world carries on the way it is, if it chooses to live without God, it will naturally happen in this way. It's asking to be punished. And there comes a point where God has to save the next generation, and there's no other way maybe than to punish us. And if he does punish us, then it must be out of love for us. Okay, but now, when we talk like that, many people get obsessed with apocalyptic things, or they get frightened and paralyzed by fear and all sorts of nonsense. We don't know when we might die. You might die today or tomorrow when you cross the road. It could be like that. Who knows? The end of the world for me might be today when I cross the road, when I go to confessions in an hour's time. So, be converted. Don't wait. Now, so these secrets, I don't think we should obsess about them or worry about them. But when the time is right, the visionaries are told, well, one of them especially, Mariana, will reveal them to a priest that she's chosen, and she and the priest will pray and fast together for 1 week, and then the priest will reveal it to the world 3 days beforehand. That's roughly how it will happen.
Thank you for sharing that, Father.
Hello mga ka-faith, Adrian Milag here, and today gusto kong promote yung bago nating design sa Adrian Milag TV merch, itong Maximilian Kolbe shirt. Ayan, so kilala naman po natin si Saint Maximilian Kolbe, isang very Marian saint yan. Isa yan sa hininga ko na intercession, isa sa magaling natin na Catholic saint yan, at siyempre, si Maximilian Kolbe is the patron saint of media. That's why, marapat lang na magkaroon tayo ng merch na katulad nito, itong mukha ni Maximilian Kolbe. At meron pa yan nakalagay sa likod.
In the hands of the Immaculata, you can do all things. Let yourself be led by her. By Saint Maximilian Kolbe.
Diba, ang ganda na sinabi niya. Siyempre, si Mama Mary, tinutukoy niya dyan na si Maximilian Kolbe, ay talagang kinonsecrate niya ang kanyang buhay with Mama Mary. So mga ka-faith, kung interested kayo maka-avail ng bagong design natin, ng merch na ito, ng t-shirt na ito, ilalagay ko yung link sa taas or sa baba ng video na ito. Nandyan yung details. Pwede kayong bumili through Merchiful and Shopee. Thank you and God bless.